This is an interesting juxtaposition because my viral series is about the oppression of women. It ended up being called Boundaries on the Internet. Just a little background about this project. I created it as a member of the Young Photographers Alliance mentoring program. And the gist of the program is that photography professionals participate in various cities across the country. And if you are a student or recent graduate, you are invited to apply to be a mentee, to be mentored by these photography professionals. And if you're accepted to the program, you're given a sort of overall broad theme to build a project about. So I was kind of pushing the definition of recent graduate. This was last year. But I wanted a new creative project to work on, and I knew two of the mentors at the time, so I decided to apply, and I was accepted. And the theme for that year was boundaries. I knew pretty quickly that I wanted to interpret this as social boundaries faced by women, and I roped my very good friend Erin Cooper into the project. She's the model in these photos. And after a lot of, drinking and bitching and general deliberation, we decided that we were going to build this project, and it was going to focus on what it feels like when your boundaries as a woman are violated in your day-to-day life. And really this just meant like the unwelcome touch or comment at work, to catcalls or being followed on the street, to unsolicited photos. And we kind of had a formula for all of these photos. Each one was going to be taking place in an everyday setting, and all of the settings for the photos were modeled after our personal experiences of harassment. I guess smaller, depending on your perspective, actions of harassment were dramatized and represented by very aggressive hands encroaching on the woman in the photo's space, personal space. We also decided that she would maintain a neutral expression because a lot of times these instances are, laughed off or minimized. And lastly, I employed a sort of plastic retouching technique, and that was meant to sort of symbolize an objectification that comes from these types of actions. So fast forward about a year to March of 2015. A lot had happened. We finished the project. There were a couple exhibitions for the program, the Young Photographers Alliance mentoring program, that were successful. I moved from Pittsburgh to New York, and I decided that it would be neat if I submitted these photos to Petapixel, which I'm sure many of you know is a popular photo blog, and I liked them a lot, and I wasn't super optimistic. I thought it would be great if they published them, but it was just a shot in the dark. So I was working the day after I sent in this submission, and I was working this terrible restaurant job that I hated. And I got an email in the middle of my shift that was just a link to the post, and it had been accepted, and they ran it. I was really excited, and this was great. And my coworkers didn't know what I was talking about, and they didn't care, which was fine. But just a couple hours later, I got a call and a missed call and a voicemail from a number that I didn't recognize, and I listened to the voicemail, and it was a reporter at BuzzFeed who said that she saw the photos on Petapixel, she loved them, she wanted to interview me about the project, and at this point, this was surreal. As I said, I was pushing the definition of recent graduate, but still had only recently been a photo student. And so I called her back, obviously. And she wrote the article and posted it later that day, and I was, again, only cautiously optimistic. I figured a lot of BuzzFeed, articles maybe didn't get read. Until I woke up in the middle of the night that night and saw that it was in their trending section, with over, I think, 100,000 views at that point, but it gained a lot more. So after that, things really took off. It happened kind of all at once in maybe March and April. I received a lot of emails about media correspondence, a lot of press requests, and ended up finding articles all over the place that were posted by media outlets that hadn't even asked my permission to run the photos. Most notably, I would say like Huffington Post, Redbook, Cosmo, Elite Daily, Al Jazeera were really big names, and that was incredible. But even smaller posts in the US and around the world, you can see this is my website analytics, and there was barely a country in the entire world that hadn't viewed the project at some point. So that was really incredible. I had this like personal rule at the time where I didn't end up submitting it anywhere except for Petapixel, but I also, anyone who asked to share the photos, even if they didn't offer compensation, which nobody did, I didn't say no. So I was really curious to see how far it would go. During this entire process, I remember just having, it was exciting, but there was also an underlying anxiety. Like, I would wake up a lot in the middle of the night and wonder what new emails I was getting, what new followers I was gaining on social media, as someone who was not very active on social media otherwise, and who had this had never happened to. It was really interesting, but also really nerve-wracking because, as many of the speakers before me have said, the comments can be brutal. And it became kind of a mantra between me and Erin, the girl who worked with me, and our mutual friends, like, do not read the comments. But some of them, filter through and you catch a glimpse. You quickly have to develop a thick skin if you're going to see what people think about this project that's being shared on all of these news outlets and all over social media. I think the most basic, criticism was on the quality of the photos themselves, and that was okay, but there was also a YouTube video that talked a little bit about the project, that I made that talked a little bit about the project, and there were some really terrible attacks about my appearance, physically. I just want to note the swastika avatar, so we've got some real winners in this bunch. On top of that, I received some very intense hate mail, people who were genuinely angry that I chose to take this viewpoint. And I think really the most frustrating thing besides all of this, besides some of the misogynists and the people who were just, angry and out to cause trouble, was that, you end up having very little control over what gets published. And so no matter how much I put out there about myself and about the project and about the thought that went into it, these news outlets, would choose very little of that. And the commenters had these preconceived notions about me that you really can't combat. So it becomes very frustrating. But I think on the flip side of that, I don't know. Once I finally got over my fear of reading the comments, which was really only about a week ago when I had to talk at this event, I figured it was time. I realized that there was a lot of discussion because these were very intense, polarizing photos. And even when people didn't agree with me, it was a really good feeling that I got them thinking. And on top of that, in contrast to the hate mail, there was a lot of thank you mail, which really ranged from women who were thanking me for being able to express what they had thought was maybe not justified in the past from issues that, pertain to everyday sexism and catcalling, all the way up to downright abuse. And those were really, really touching. And emails from men who thanked me for a new perspective on, the way they approach these situations in their day-to-day lives. I think that as far as my career goes, I can't say that there was a definitive turning point based on this project. Like I said, compensation wasn't ever really offered to share the photos, but I'm no longer working at a restaurant that I hate, so that's a step. And I think the gains were a little more personal for me, knowing that I helped people, and I was really unprepared for this to go viral. I had never had this experience before. I did not expect BuzzFeed to contact me. Now I've had the experience, and if I were to go through this again, I think that I could plan it a little better. I could plan, fundraising for the cause that I was trying to promote, and I could take a conscious step towards helping people, and all of the negativity is kind of worth it for that. So that's how I feel. I'm done. Thank you.